Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Finally got some time in between studying for finals to make the install video of my new intake, so here it is. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is disconnect the battery. Now the battery is in your trunk underneath your spare tire. So let me remove this. Okay, it's kind of probably hard to see, but the first thing you need to do is there's these bolts right there, and they are, what are they? They're 12 millimeter bolts on the struts that we have to remove. Okay, so the next thing we gotta do is loosen the 3 bolts holding in the actual airbox. Now I'll try and show you guys. It's kind of hard. So you got one right there, you got another one right there, and then the third one is right there, I believe. Is it, yeah, right there. So remove those 3. I'm just using a nut driver because it's kind of hard to get in there, but they are 10 millimeters. Now I got the 3 bolts. They're all out now. Now what we have to do next here is there's this little clamp that attaches the airbox to the tube. Now just use a Phillips screwdriver, loosen that up, and we're going to be able to just remove this airbox. There's a little clamp right here on this vacuum line. We're going to have to loosen that and just remove it. Okay, so I finally got it. Basically, it's just a little clamp right here that I moved out of the way, and then this was stuck on there, so I just started twisting it, and it easily came off. So, the next thing we have to do, I'll get a light here. If you guys can see, there's this clamp right here. This is the crank case line. We're gonna have to loosen that and then disconnect the hose. So. See, the part where it goes into the turbo, there's this little clamp right there. That's what you have to loosen, either your nut driver to loosen the clamp right here on the diverter valve, and I'm almost done. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, that hose was almost impossible to get off. If you take the clamp off, the thing's still basically stuck on there. I had to use a screwdriver and like get underneath it, push up and down, and pry it out. Probably took me 10 minutes just to disconnect this hose. And I still got another one right here. This one was a little bit easier now that I knew what I was doing. I just grabbed a smaller screwdriver, pried it in there, and pulled off. So now that I got all the hoses disconnected, remove the intake tube. So I believe I removed this entire thing. Okay, so here's the intake tube. So this was the bolt that's connected to the turbo right here. Turbo wasn't too bad to get off, but yeah, so that's the driver's side. Now you have to do the exact same thing on the passenger side. It's slightly different as okay, yeah, so it doesn't have a vacuum hose or the case crank hose. So all you got on the driver's side is the intake, and you got the divergent hose, and that's it. So I'm not gonna do too much talking for this. I'm just gonna let it play, and so now that the factory intake box and the intakes and all that tubes are all out, it's time to put the upgraded one. Now, let's take a look and see what the first step is. Oh, yeah, that's what it is. So we have the Vibro mounts from this little bag right here. Simply, we're gonna put these right here. Just screw them in. That's what the first thing you gotta do. So now that the 2 mounts are in, as you guys can see there and there. And the next step, we install the 2 1/4 straight hose to the turbo on both sides with clamps. So, okay. So these things are what's going to connect right onto the turbo, and I'll use the clamps to lock them in. So stick the smaller end of the river into the rubber hose that's connected to the turbo, and then this little mount connects right there. The instructions tell you to first put the intake thing into the turbo and line that up. But the problem is connecting this hose from the connecting the case crank hose is almost impossible. But now that I did that, the vacuum hose is not connected. That's going to be impossible to connect. Shit. Okay. I'm going to try and fix this up. Is the first thing is for the driver's side, put the vacuum hose on the intake tube, put the crank casing hose on the intake tube as well, and then it's hard, but you gotta try and move the intake tube into the turbo down there, and then connect this at the same time. This one you can kind of worry about later, but so the audio kind of got messed up, so I'm just going to go through basically what I was doing here. Now, right in front of the stock intake is this little box, this little air box. Now, you're supposed to remove it with the rest of the stock intake, but I forgot to. Doesn't make too big of a difference, but to be able to put the air filter in, you need to remove this. Now, basically, there's just a 10mm bolt at the top and a 10mm bolt at the bottom. Now, it's kind of hard to get to, so I had to use the extension for my ratchet, but just remove that, and then we'll get on to the next part. Now, one of the last things we gotta do here is reconnect the divergent lines. Now, we have to reuse the hose from the stock intake, so go ahead and remove it from the stock intake that we already took out. And you're gonna want to save those clamps, keep them on there, and you're just simply gonna put them back onto the upgrade intake. There's a little place for them, and then right back to where they were before when we started this, and then just use the clamps to lock them into place. Now, lastly, it's time to put the air filter on. So simply just slide the air filter onto the upgrade intake and tighten down the clamp, and pretty much you're good. And then before everything's done, you just have to put the strut bars back. So that's pretty self-explanatory, but yeah. This is what my engine bay looks like. So guys, this pretty much ends the video. All you got left to do is put the strut bar back in. It's pretty simple. And you gotta reconnect the battery, which make sure you don't close the hatch when you disconnect the battery. Found that out the hard way. You gotta climb through the back and use the manual release. But I would say the installation was pretty simple. I mean, coming from someone that doesn't really know what he's doing, took about 2 hours. Someone that knows what they're doing can rock it out real quickly. It wasn't that difficult. I'll try and get a review up for you guys soon. Michigan's getting hit with some bad weather. Don't know if I can really push my car to show the intake, but as soon as I can, I'll get it up. So if you guys like the content, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. See you guys next video.